I just want to make sure that we get this point. Now, when the Shia do it, it's zina, it's sexual immorality, it's even adultery. We'd even call it prostitution. But for some reason, when your prophet allowed it to be done, because he allowed it, then it's no longer prostitution, it's no longer adultery, it's no longer sexual morality. So what changed?
What changed is the circumstances.
Oh, so when Muhammad decides, if the circumstances are right, then it's no longer zina. Okay.
Islam commands us to do good and forbid evil, to pray.
You want to talk about that? So you want to talk about moral teaching of the Quran? Is that what you want to talk about now? We can do that. Because you're saying it commands to do good. We can talk about that.
You're the one who's bringing up the points, and I'm the one who's here to refute. So what are you? Okay,
so now you said Islam. Okay, you said Islam teaches good. Okay, so let's talk about morality of Islam, because you follow Quran and Sunnah. Your prophet at one time, I'm not saying now, you're Sunni, so I know you don't do it now. But at one time, your prophet accepted Zawj al-Muta. Muta, right?
Yeah.
You're okay with that? Him doing Muta?
At the time, it was accepted.
So now be honest with me, as a man who has respect, you have ghira, you have honor. How would you feel if you lived at that time? So understand what I'm saying. How would you feel if you lived at that time and one of the Muslims said, I want to marry your sister for 3 days, and then when I'm done, I'll divorce her and give her money? You honestly would be okay with that?
I don't believe that it was done in that context. I believe it was more of, when they were away from their wives.
Oh, so it's okay? They're away? So, okay. A Muslim from California is away from his wife, and you're living in Chicago, and he says, Ya akhi, I'm going to marry your sister for 3 days and give her money when I'm done because my wife is in California. Are you okay with that?
Well, at the end of the day, you have to consider it like this. Do you want to have unlawful sexual relations in the eyes of Allah? Or do you actually want to, if the Prophet said something and he's the highest moral authority. So if he permitted something at a certain time under certain circumstances, or it's not for us to really question that. We just follow him exactly as he says, and we obey him. So
you really think a God Almighty, who's all powerful, would legalize?
Hey, I'm giving it to you straight. Am I beating around the bush?
No, you're honest. Okay. All right. Okay, that's fine. All right. Okay, then you're saying if it's from Allah, okay, that's fine. All right, then you can see why non-Muslims have a problem with it. But okay, now that you said, well, if it's from Allah, all right, fine. Okay, that's fine. Let me ask you this then. In chapter 4, verse 24 of the Quran.
I don't have an issue with it, but it's not something that at the time, so a lot of things about, the Quran is it's descriptive. So there are certain things that you guys like to point to. And if I come with Numbers 31, you're going to, that's that time. It's Moses had to do this.
No, that's not my answer. I wouldn't answer that way. I wouldn't answer that way, but that's okay. I wouldn't answer that. I can answer that very easily. I will, but that's not how we answer Numbers 31. But coming to this issue, Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 24, that you said, okay, Allah permitted it at that time, and that was legal, and I have no problem with it. But now the Shia, who say that their hadith still allows muta, it's not been abrogated. Do you then tell them, then you guys are committing zina because you're committing prostitution and trying to excuse it? Would you accuse them of committing zina?
Yeah, because it was said that after, so it was allowed for a certain period of time. Like when the Muslims, they went on expeditions and they were away from their wives, they were allowed to do it. But they could do it. They didn't have any wives at that time, and it was a different time and stuff like that.
Okay, so the Shia doing it today.
They needed to give a mahr, give a gift, give a dowry to marry a woman, and they could, and enjoy her in a marital way. And
you consider that marriage?
After some time, the marriage would be dissolved.
Okay, but, brother in humanity, be
right
honest.
Now we don't permit that, and the Prophet didn't permit it when when the Muslims returned home and they're living amongst their community, for them to just do it, with each other's daughters and stuff as a form of no. Marriage, of course, is meant to be a long-term thing.
Say it again. Marriage is meant to be what? Marriage is meant to be what?
I said by and large,
it should be a long-term thing.
It's meant to be a long-term thing.
Okay.
Now there are certain circumstances that may warrant that, but the way we have it now, it's not permitted.
Okay. Let me just repeat what you said. Marriage is meant to be for long term. Even though I may marry someone that I want to stay with, things happen, we get divorced. But my intention wasn't to marry her and divorce her. So you agree. But you're saying because Muhammad, under the orders of your God, because you believe Allah spoke to your prophet, when your prophet said, you can marry them short term, and you can tell a woman, look, I'm just going to marry you for 3 days and pay you money. That was legal marriage, even though the intention was to be married for a short term. And you really call that marital? You really call that a marriage?
Well, what you got to understand, they were doing Allah's will at the time.
Allah's will, okay.
So they were out preaching Islam and, assisting in the expansion of Islam. And so they did not have their wives with them. So it was permitted for them to temporarily marry the women who were available to them. And but after a while, this practice was forbidden.
And so now when the Shia do it, it's zina, it is wicked, it's haram, it's immoral. Now if they do that, right?
Correct. And they reject our hadith.
Yes, right.
And they curse a lot of the
companions. Yep.
And so they have become misguided in a lot of ways, and I can't speak for them.
Sure, no, put them aside. But I just want to make sure we get this point. Now, when the Shia do it, it's zina, it's sexual immorality, it's even adultery. We'd even call it prostitution. But for some reason, when your prophet allowed it to be done, because he allowed it, then it's no longer prostitution, it's no longer adultery, it's no longer sexual morality. So what changed?
What changed is the circumstances.
Oh, so when Muhammad decides, if the circumstances are right, then it's no longer zina. Okay.
So there are certain circumstances which may warrant that, like in maybe like a wartime or, something like that where it's of dire need. But the way we're living now, it's not as if we need to have temporary marriages.
Right,
it's not something that we should practice. But marriage should be more long term.
Should be, yeah. Okay.
Halo teman-teman, ini ada fitur baru dari YouTube, di mana teman-teman bisa mensupport channel Pil Pahit dengan cara mengklik thanks seperti ini, lalu akan muncul pilihan jumlah nominal yang teman-teman bisa support. Setelah itu kirim, teman-teman bisa mengirim dengan berbagai aplikasi seperti yang ada di layar. Terima kasih untuk dukungan teman-teman.